everybody. In this video, I'm going to be walking you through how to do the passenger base, just a couple of parts actually of the passenger base. I'm not going to do the whole thing. This is for PLTW IED activity 5.2b. So we're going to start with this. I already have the triangle and the square in place. Those are pretty simple to do. You just need to make sure you have constraints in place so that these outlines are completely black, like you see here. And that black outline tells me that everything is locked down here. The main thing that kids forget on this, if you're watching this and you're one of the students, make sure that this piece is vertically aligned so that the triangle cannot rotate. Okay, it's important that the passenger face forward, therefore it's important that its triangular base is always pointing towards the front. So here's what we also need to do. You'll see that the circle here is blue, and the question is, you can see I added this dimension of 0.05 between the top surface and then the tangent of the circle. How did I do that? Let's start with that. I'm just going to hit D to dimension, and I want to dimension from this line over to the circle, but if I click right now, it's going to go to the center point. Okay, so if I click on the circle, notice it goes to the center point. Okay, that's not what I want. So I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to hit D again and click off to the side. Click D again, dimension between here, and in the middle, I'm going to right click, and instead of choosing an arc center and a circle, I want to choose the tangent of the circle. So I'm going to click here, and now when I click, it says lock into this point. I'm going to say yes to that X, and I come down here, and it allows me to dimension, and that dimension is a distance of 0.2. So I hit enter, and now that thing is completely dimensioned and locked down. It's fully constrained. Now, let's talk about this circle down here, or excuse me, the star down here. So I want to go back here, and I want to take a look real quick at the document that we have with our measurements. And here are a few things that you'll notice. First of all, there's a circle here, which is actually completely unnecessary in Fusion360. What is important is this pentagon. Okay, so we're going to draw this pentagon first. Notice that it is flat along the top. We're going to have to add a constraint for that. Okay, and we do have a couple of dimensions. So this point of the pentagon right here is 0.2 from the edge. And we see that this point down here is 0.5 from the edge, 0.05 from the edge. And we also see that it's 0.488 from the left edge. So let's get that in place first. A pentagon that meets those requirements. Now, what I am going to use the circle for is this. It says that it has a diameter of 0.605. Okay, a diameter of 0.605 for the circular piece right here. That means we have a pentagon inside of a circle, which is an inscribed, inside inscribed. Okay, so I'm going to use that information. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to come up here to sketch. Let me close all this stuff down. I'm going to sketch a polygon, and it's going to be an inscribed polygon because the shape is inside of a circle. Click down here, somewhere in this area, and a couple of things that I want to do. First of all, you'll remember the diameter is 0.605. So 0.605, well, that looks way too big, but notice that's only to the center point, so that's a radius. I need to cut that in half. So now it's the right size. Now I'm going to hit tab. Instead of being a hexagon with 6 sides, it's a pentagon with 5. Okay, I'm going to hit enter, and this pentagon is ready to go. Okay, so the circle is unnecessary, but we still want to kind of use it, in other words. Now I'm going to flip this thing around in just a second. We'll worry about that, and let's start adding dimensions in a minute too. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to choose the horizontal vertical constraint. I'm going to make sure that one of these lines is horizontal. So there we go. Now I can see it's oriented in the proper direction. The point is at the bottom and the flat part is at the top. Now it's time to dimension. The dimension between this line and this point is 0.02, just like the circular piece above, 0.2. There we go. Now it's the correct distance away. I know that the distance from here down to the bottom, I have to zoom in a little bit, here we go, is 0.05. And I can see now that piece is completely black. It cannot move anymore. Okay, so because I've locked in the orientation so it can't rotate, and I've dimensioned a couple of points, that thing is now completely constrained. Now, how do we do the star shape? That's the next step. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit L for line. And actually, before I do that, I want you to notice one thing. See how this is 0.187. 0.187 is the length of this line. It does not necessarily, now it looks vertical here, but it might not be. We don't know. Okay, so we're not just going to draw a line straight down. We're going to come over here. We're going to draw a line and an angle on purpose, and we're just going to say it's 0.187. We're going to hit enter. I'm not going to worry about the angle. So right now the angle is 120 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and click on that and I'm going to delete it, and that leaves the line free to swing around. I want it to make sure that it's not locked into a particular direction. And now the rest of this shape is actually pretty simple. You've done all the hard stuff. I'm going to hit L again for line. I'm going to go in point to the corner. And then I'm going to come over here, in point, somewhere over here. Now notice I don't want to lock in flat because that might not be flat. So I'm going to take great care to draw these in random places that may or may not. So I try not to lock in anything in particular. In fact, let me zoom in. Okay. I'm afraid that it's going to lock in. So if you start seeing random like vertical line, like right here, see how that vertical line is appearing? It's trying to line up with the midpoint below it. So I want to make sure that I'm not connected to anything. Just randomly drawing. Okay. And you can see here what I'm doing is I'm drawing a star. Okay. Now, that obviously is not correct. That star is nowhere near symmetrical. Okay. All I have is one dimension here of 0.187, but the rest of the star is very simple. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on the equal constraint. I'm going to say this line needs to be equal in length to this line. Aha. Now I'm going to say this one needs to be equal to this one. And this one needs to be equal to this one. Oh, see, it doesn't like that. We're going to have to find some constraints later on. This one, I'm going to work around until everything's not blue. And I'm just clicking on each line and going to the next one. Okay. And we're pretty close here. The only thing I'm really concerned about, these lines turn black awful easily. So I'm going to go over here and make sure that I show constraints and make sure that I don't have anything in here. It says this is equal. See what I have here. Symmetry constraint, perhaps? Oh, there's a perpendicular. So I just happen to draw these two lines perpendicular to each other. So I'm going to click then on this perpendicular icon and hit the delete button and get rid of it. Okay, so notice these turn blue again. Let's see what I have down here. I'm not really sure what that little symbol is. Maybe we'll get away with it. I don't see any other symbols. These are all equal signs. Each line should have two equal signs, so we're close to being correct here. I'm going to say this one needs to be equal here. This one needs to be equal here. Set has already existed. Aha, now we're all black. Okay, I think we're good to go now. Okay, so now we have that star completely done. Now we have one other step to do. Before we get done, I just hit the escape button to make sure I'm not adding any more constraints. We need to make sure that this pentagon is an actual real shape. It's just a construction line. So I'm going to click on each of these lines. I'm going to hold down Control so I can click all 5 of them at once. All 5 of these borders. So notice they're all highlighted. I'm going to hit the X button on my keyboard, and X turns those things into construction lines instead. So it says it's not part of the real shape. It's just there as a guideline, as a reference. So now that you have this done, I should be able to stop the sketch. Let's go to a nice home view. I should be able to go take it and extrude by clicking on E, just this outline. And this is going to come up a distance of 0.3. So that's how you create the passenger base. You just have a few things left to do. That would include filleting the edges, these corners here, so that it's round. Okay, let's go back to the dimension sheet so I can show you that. You need to make sure that these things are round. You will do that afterward, and you can see that the radius is right down here. You need to make sure you shell it out from the backside. So this thing's going to be empty on the backside. And then you're also going to add, I got to zoom in to show you this, okay? But you also need to add a quick chamfer around each of these edges on the front. So there's a chamfer here, and there's also a chamfer here. I would make the dimension of those chamfers, those outlines, 0.01 for all cases. The last two things you need to do are changing the physical material and the appearance of the material so that it's made out of ABS plastic and that it looks green, okay? And instructions for that, of course, are on Canvas. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. The star can be a little bit tricky, but once you figure out a few things about constraints and geometric constraints, the equal constraint, and the things like that, it goes pretty smoothly.